Hi, this is my video over inclusive leadership, race, class, access, gender, and or equity. So the first thing I did was some research on Jim Collins, and he's the author of the book From Good to Great. And I watched a YouTube video over his Good to Great book, and it was a really good lecture. He talked about a lot of different things. The first thing he brought up was clock builders versus time tellers, and which would you rather be? And he says that everyone needs to be a clock builder because time tellers are very good leaders and they can tell everyone what to do. They're organized. They can run a business or a corporation or a school very well. But once they're gone, there's no one to take their place. There's no one that knows how to build the clock or to run the company because they haven't spent time building anyone up to take their position. They've simply ran the company the whole entire time. So that was a really interesting point. The next thing he said was a genius with 1,000 helpers. And when he first said it, I thought, oh, that's probably a good thing. You know, I would love to be a genius and have 1,000 helpers. But he went on to say that that was not good at all. It was similar to the clock builders versus time tellers. If you have a genius with 1,000 leaders, you have one person that knows how to run a company successfully and 1,000 leaders that are good helpers, but not 1,000 leaders that could take over and help run the company. They wouldn't know what to do because they're just workers. They're not actually being trained to be in a leadership position. He also talked a lot about charisma and being a charismatic leader in his video. I thought that was interesting. He said that the more charisma you had, the better leader you were going to be because people would like you and like what you said, things like that. His next point was trained to be loyal to the data. He used an example of himself and how he was being unsuccessful in something because he was using his personal feelings, not the data. And his coworkers had an intervention for him where they told him to look at what was happening with his data, look at what was working, what wasn't working, instead of going by his feelings. And he said that's one of the hardest things for a good leader to do is to be loyal to your data. The last point I really liked that he made was that leadership is a variable. He talked about how level 5 leader is ambitious for everything besides themselves. They're ambitious for their workers, for their company, for their goals, everything besides their own personal gain. He did a really, really good job of explaining what a level 5 leader was and then the 5 levels of leadership. I kind of had a difficult time understanding it before I watched his video. So if you are like me and need some better understanding, I would suggest the video. Next, I looked more into Jim Kouzes, and I've really, really enjoyed his Leadership Challenge book. And as I looked at his other books, I found a coach's guide book. I included the link to the Amazon book. It has really good reviews, and I'm considering buying it because I've liked his other books so much that I think it would really help me to be a better coach. The video I watched brought up the point again of why should people follow you? What do you do to be a good leader? And he said, people follow you because you're competent, you're forward-looking, you're honest, and you're inspiring. And as I related that back to teaching or being a coach, it's very important that a coach is competent, forward-looking, honest, and inspiring, and same with a teacher. And then he said, he asked the question, why do people believe things they believe? Why do they believe in you as a leader? And first off, it is because you're a trustworthy messenger. People trust in what you're saying. You're honest. You have an expertise in what you're talking about, and you're a very dynamic leader. And then he wrapped around to the point that the reasons why people should follow you and why people believe things are pretty much the same reasons. You're trustworthy or honest, you're competent or you have a good expertise, and then you're a dynamic leader or you look forward. So 3 of the 4 reasons why people should follow you, why people believe things that they believe, are the exact same. I thought that was some really, really good points, and it related well to the education field and to the coaching field. So I'm really looking forward to reading his Coach's Guide to Leadership book. So for part 2 application, I tried to apply what I learned to an administration standpoint, and because that's what I am going into is administration, or hoping to go into. And in doing this, I took a quiz because I thought I was an inclusive leader, and I found a really, really cool website that had a quiz. I can show it to you. It's an Are You an Inclusive Leader, and there's 9 questions, and you just answer A, B, or C, and then you, there's 8 questions, sorry. If you have mostly A's, you're not so much an inclusive leader. Mostly B's, you're on the right track, but you're not there. And C's is congratulations, you're creating an inclusive culture. Uh, I thought I would have all C's. Before I did it, I thought I'd be an inclusive leader, but I actually had 2 A's, 2 B's, and then 3 C's. So it was mostly C's, but it was still two A's and 2 B's. So I was surprised by that. The 4 qualities of an inclusive leader, according to this website, is empowerment, humility, accountability, and courage. And what I struggled with was the empowerment part. I had A's on both those questions because the question asked what you would do if somebody came to you for advice, and I said I would just say I would do it this way because that's probably what I would do because my way is usually the right way. But you're supposed to click tell me some of the solutions you had in mind. I guess that's what I need to work on. But I attached a link to this quiz. I would recommend taking it to see if you are an inclusive leader because it really kind of opened my eyes up a little bit. Back to the application of it, I think as an administrator it's important to include teachers from all levels, including your paras, your special teachers, so your music, your computer, your library, your art teachers, your regular education teachers, and then your special ed teachers. I think sometimes the paras and the specials get left out a little bit because they're not the main regular education classroom, and it's important for an administrator to include them in decision-making processes. And then I also think it's important as an administrator to do regular check-ins, to look at lesson plans, maybe join students or teachers, and then something as a teacher that I would like is for my administrators to come out to like recess so we could have just the quick talk about how things were going. I think that would be a really good way to just be able to have a low-key discussion. Next, I said be accountable for your teachers. One of the hard things to do as a good inclusive leader is take a jump. If your teacher has a really good idea, it's important to take that idea and run with it so that teachers feel like they're being listened to. Sometimes I think the really, really good ideas are just overlooked because they're scary. It's too scary to take the plunge and to try and make something happen with that idea. So I think as an administrator, it's very important to be an inclusive leader. That's something that I'll really need to work on as I try and be an administrator, is being more inclusive and including everybody and being better at listening to what they say rather than just doing what I want to do. And that brings me to my next point, which is the challenges of being an inclusive leader. First of all, personally, my challenges would be constructive criticism. I'm not always the best at taking constructive criticism. I think that my way is the right way most of the time. So to be an inclusive leader, I'll have to work on that. The next thing would be being in the actual project, not just a supervisor of the project. I think a lot of times the lead on a project doesn't always get to see the small details that are happening, and therefore they miss out on some of the really important things. So being able to go down and do a project from the very basic levels to the top level is something that's important to do as an administrator. The next thing I said was being able to adapt your style. Sometimes I think there's just one really good way to do things, and that's the way that things should be done. But they talked a lot, Kausas and our other author have talked a lot about being able to adapt your style and being able to not just do it your way, but look at the way that works best. And even if it's not maybe it's the way you want to do things, do it the other way because it's the way that's going to be the most successful for your business or corporation or school building. And then lastly, kind of like I hit on earlier, is support of the big projects. Sometimes it's hard to take that leap and support what your teachers are saying, but it's important so that you can make your teachers and everyone else feel empowered as a leader. It's being able to empower and inspire, like Collins said, being able to, not Collins, sorry. Kausas said, being able to inspire is one of the most important things in being a leader. That's what's going to make people follow you. And so being able to empower your teachers is how you're going to inspire them. That's all I have for our leadership project. I have attached the links to 2 quizzes I found to see if you're an inclusive leader, both YouTube videos that I watched, and then just some other sites I found that I thought did a really good job of explaining the 5 levels of leadership. I would really suggest taking the quiz if you don't do anything else with my presentation because they really do open your eyes to what you need to do to better yourself to be an inclusive leader.